Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on, good question, March 5th, 2023 at approximately 7:28 p.m. PST. Now, this is that weird time on Sunday when I decided to come on here to improve my public speaking, to improve my diction, this sort of thing. And the easiest way for me to do that is by reading from the book that I've already written. Okay, Yldrbac, The Latter Years, The Birth of the Wolf Pack. This is actually the first book that has come out in the series. Just want to double check one little detail, and then I'll get on with things. Okay, we are looking at the prologue in the first part of chapter 1. Now, here's the thing. Okay, I absolutely will answer questions after I'm done this section of it. The reality of it is that things are picking up for me, and this is, well, before I get into it, I should get that covered. We have now, who has come through the door here? We really should take a look at that. I don't think we ended up doing that. Where are we? Of course, we did that funny and backwards, the whole 9 yards. There, now we see what pops up. And we'll bring that online so we can actually see it. It's going to talk to me for half a minute. Okay, kill the voice on it. Okay, now we have Nightmare in here with the gold. We have Eric. You made it back. Eric is in with the silver, and then we have Adam shows up with the bronze, and Nylock, welcome aboard. And you come in with honorable mention. Of course, then we have Robert has shown up, and Darlene. Nope, my apologies, blind. Charlene, how you doing there? So what I'm doing here is picking up where we left off, as it were. Of course, can't see a thing here. So again, bear with me, if you will. What I'm doing here is reading the prologue and the first part of the first half of chapter 1. Now, if you take a look at it, and this is of course the way the book shows up. And trying to read the print on it, this just shows you the lake that this is all built around. Okay. And then we have another map, and again, it's a lot easier to read when you actually end up with the book in your hand. But this just shows the area. Now, the prologue itself. Now, I will answer questions, absolutely. But again, remember, if you've got a question, please put the thing in all caps so I can find it after all of this is said and done, after I'm finished reading. Okay? Because I'll be more, whatever the topic, I will do my best to answer the question. So, this is the prologue. Traveling far and wide in the years since retiring from the Kandanian military had taught him much about changing the world before him. All around the countryside, he had seen numerous individuals do horrendous things to each other in the name of love, honor, and/or friendship. As society degraded, he had witnessed a staggering growth in the paramilitary strength and numbers of gangs, small families, communes, and clans. Although these groups were disorganized, the nefarious bands posed a growing threat to the current and newly forming communities. He had tried in earnest to calmly discuss and mediate the growing disagreements, virtually all to no avail. Above all, the restabilization of the interplanetary population was of the utmost importance at this time. As you can tell, reading fluently is not my strong suit, so for that I'll apologize. In recent months, a new threat had emerged in the Onondaga Valley, one that posed a greater threat than ever before. During his travels, he had befriended many of the varying heritages and races. Interestingly enough, he had also learned many new languages, cultures, and healing techniques, while also being reminded of some ancient ones. Despite the setbacks he had suffered over the years, or perhaps because of them, he was not readily prepared to face them alone once again. Thus it was that he ended up in the situation he was now facing. There it was, not too far off in the distance, Casey's Bar and Grill. It had been years since he had been back in this neck of the woods, and things did not really look as though they had changed very much at all. Or had they? Now this is the layout of Casey's Bar and Grill. Okay. This is where the majority of stuff takes place. Okay. This is chapter 1, Casey's. The early afternoon light in the spring equinox, of the spring equinox, bathed Casey's in an almost surreal light. Opening the dilapidated door before him revealed incredible images from ages past. The smoke hung lazily about the seemingly ancient-appearing rafters of Casey's Bar and Grill. The fine oak beams, long since yellowed with excessive nicotine and age, supported the second floor of one of the most well-known and subsequently active trading centers in this part of the world. An ornately carved solid oak bar centered against the south wall commanded attention as one entered the room. Behind the bar, a series of heavy copper pipes extended out through some of the many holes in the walls. Prominently displayed across the entire front of the bar was an intricate hand-carved mural specifically commissioned and autographed by Timothy Wilkes, an unparalleled artist from before the Great Collapse. The lifelike image depicted a dragon curled around the huge iron-bound chest, with the word Casey's adorning the front of this enormous coffer. A complex series of Celtic knots bordered the letters, further emphasizing the name for all to see. The letters, hovering slightly overhead and to the left of the dragon, was a long cylindrical UFO with two banks of windows, partially concealed by storm clouds, stretching across the top of the majestic sea. Further enhancing the room's ambiance was a finely crafted staircase, slowly climbing up the south wall and around the corner to the west wall, as it worked its way gently upward to reach the second floor, situated almost directly above the stage. Casey's had long ago been established as a rough and tumble place to get a drink, trade, get patched up, and or spend the night after a time exploring the ruins. It certainly had its own unique charm. His matted locks of shaggy blue-black hair descending from beneath a dark, wide-brimmed hat and draping over the shoulders of his weathered leather duster. Boy, we are doing an absolute butcher job of reading, aren't we? Parted the smoky haze as he entered the bar. Moving silently about, he watched the varied interactions of the peoples involved, just as he had been doing for as long as he could remember. With his left hand firmly grasping the remains of a tall, pre-ruined rye meat, and his pearly white showing clearly between his short yet full black beard and mustache. He often paused to talk to anyone who caught his attention, some of whom were not necessarily appreciative of the intrusion. With facial hair partially concealing the obvious heavy scarring, of the right-hand side of his face, brought about by gunfire hitting too close to its mark, and the hilt of his ancient katana extending up over his right shoulder. His hyper alert, steely dark gray eyes, and well-tuned ears and nose took in almost all information. Strewn about the huge dirt floor were an assortment of freestanding tables and chairs. These ranged from large gnarled tree stumps and ragged card tables to tattered recliners and full-sized antique dining room ensembles. Much of this furniture had been clearly patched due to extreme wear and tear and extraneous bullet holes and bloodshed of the modern world. A variety of electrical, flame, and solar-powered lights and candles permeated the room. The random bullet holes in the walls and ceiling let natural light from and a slight breeze making Casey's a very comfortable, intimate watering hole in this brave yet harsh new world. At any time, Casey's was packed with men, women, children, and creatures from almost all walks of life and state of health imaginable. Most of the patrons could be heard talking, joking, and or fighting amongst themselves, thus creating a din of almost unbelievable magnitude. Many of the people were loaded for bear and armored extremely well, at least for the current state of the world. However, the greater majority were not. Their clothing ranged from tattered remnants of worn-out jeans and shirts to handmade leather, metal, and plastic armor, as well as complete state-of-the-art integrated armor from before the Great Collapse. Amongst the denizens of Casey's were assorted standard melee and custom-made weapons, firearms, some military paraphernalia, and even the occasionally previously classified high-tech prototype. The overall atmosphere was that of a multitude of worlds colliding with each other in a cacophony of sensations, appearances, and sounds. The collage created an interesting scene, effectively meshing peace and tranquility with chaos and bedlam. At the back of the room, on the west wall to the left of the north exit, covered with an old-fashioned blue tarp, nailed over the top of it, was the stage. The back of the stage was an acoustic work of art comprised of old car tops, hoods, and assorted metal panels, welded and or bolted together. The sound quality was beyond perfect and drew even more attention to the already active trading post. In the northeast corner, stretching out over the partially open wall, sat a fire pit inclusive of a spit large enough to roast a complete buffalo. The stone oven was situated to the right of the spit, wherein a second opening was built to permit firing of pottery and or drying of meat, etc., depending on what was required. And currently occupying the stage was a group of 7 called the Peacemakers, playing an upbeat yet relaxing tune on the assortment of instruments generously provided by Casey's, specifically for the use of visiting artists. A handcrafted custom leather banner hung proudly above the stage, announcing their presence. The drummer, playing a modern drum set made of old car parts and empty ammo cans, was a broad man of short stature, which literally resembled a mythological dwarf. Now, I'm sure you've gathered the idea as to why I don't read this and then sell it as a reading. At least not yet. Complete with the full red beard and mustache, and the temperament to match. His 4-foot, 3-inch, 130-pound frame sat securely on a pedestal stool as he spun around, clearly setting the pounding tempo for the band. A young ebony-haired lass was playing a modified short bow with multiple strings of varying tensions. A quiver full of handmade arrows protruded neatly over her left shoulder. An older Caucasian man was strumming bass on what appeared to be an old loom, while two of the lithest females and one of the most athletic males were performing aerial and floor combat maneuvers with some weapons in tempo with the music. Standing center stage, completely concealed in a full-length royal blue and blood-red hooded robe, was the largest member of the Peacemakers, belting out the songs in an incredibly vibratory baritone, while the others added to the entertainment with their own velvety voices. The additional instruments set to the left of the stage were a motley combination of modern and pre-ruin. For instance, the xylophone, comprised of worn-out gun barrels and a horn built of a salvaged muffler. There was also a clarinet-style tailpipe, a washboard made of an old radiator, and a tambourine consisting of grenade pins suspended on a metal hoop. In addition, there were a few unique instruments that Casey's owner had gone to great lengths to protect, including an ancient Stradivarius violin, a set of original Scottish bagpipes, and a pre-ruined mother-of-pearl embossed acoustic guitar. Assorted jugs, bottles, a copper panpipe, and various apparent weapons intermixed among the rest of the instruments, and the musical possibilities were limitless. Seated at the pedestal table to the right of the fire pit was a lone occupant, slight of build, wearing a sage green hooded cloak. Directly in front of the patron sat a uniquely designed, finely crafted steel goblet and a heaping plate of raw food. An ornately carved and etched antler-hilted dagger rested partially concealed under a stack of thinly sliced meat on the left side of the plate. Lying calmly at the patron's foot was a massively muscular yet elegantly graceful black panther, not unlike its companion, casually tearing at the haunch of a fresh carcass. To the uninitiated, the scene may have been macabre, though it was definitely more than a little frightening. Fortunately for Jeremiah, he was a lot of things. However, inexperience was not one of them. This was his world, and he felt quite relaxed and comfortable in this particular environment. "Welcome to Casey's, miss." Jeremiah smiled with a knowing nod. Jade Kobayashi," she responded, with a warm smile and a distinctly Oriental accent. Her sparkling green eyes clearly stood out, captivating the masses. "Greetings, Jade. My name's Jeremiah Wollstrand. So what brings you and your companions to Casey's, if you don't mind my asking?" "Just passing through on my way to rejoin the keepers," she replied in Mandarin. Without a moment's hesitation, Jeremiah switched to perfect Mandarin and carried on the discussion. "Who, pray tell, are the keepers?" he inquired, while cautiously admiring the majestic black panther at Jade's feet, still working on its meal. "They are the ones taking care of animals and that others have abandoned, like Nightwind here," responded Jade, reaching down to scratch behind his ear. Leaning into her hand, Nightwind let out a low, rumbling purr, a somewhat unnerving sound in this environment. "Now there is a good cause if ever I heard one, Jade," commented Jeremiah, setting a bag of 25 9mm rounds on the table in front of her. He continued, "I am certain you and the keepers can put these to good use. Take care of yourself, Jade, and your intriguing friends." Without another word, he turned and disappeared back into the crowd, leaving a bag of ammo for Jade to do with what she would. Shortly thereafter, Jade arose and, with Nightwind in tow, collected her gear, inclusive of the newly gifted ammo, and strode out of the bar, vanishing into the darkening night. As a result of the collapse of the world banking system some years prior, the barter system was certainly alive and well at Casey's and in the surrounding area. Bullets were the one commonly agreed upon currency. Needless to say, the people who knew how to hand load and make ammunition shells were highly coveted in all parts of the New World. Consequently, they were often very well compensated and superbly protected. Throughout the bar, deals were struck and monies exchanged in staggering amounts, despite the scarcity of money. How much for that longsword you're packing there, lad? 15 credits? You take 9mm rounds? Of course. Without hesitation, the heavily muscled man that began the negotiation stood up, his massive frame temporarily blocking the path behind him. Retrieving 3 freshly minted 9mm bullets from a small box in his pocket, he set them carefully on the table in front of them. Casually taking the sword in hand, the patron swung the sword back and forth, meticulously examining it for weight and balance, though somewhat oblivious to the people around him. This was, in fact, a normal routine in Casey's, thus encouraging patrons to remain ever vigilant. "Hey, Strag, watch where you're swinging that thing," cursed a nearby patron as he narrowly avoided the oncoming blade. Ignoring the comment completely and determining the sword was a good fit, the big man declared, "Done." "Done," confirmed the gentleman. He shuttled the rounds into his pocket just below the level of the table, while the big man resheathed the new sword and wandered back into the crowd from whence he had come. Across the room, Jeremiah noticed another fight getting started. Probably another simple misunderstanding, he thought to himself, as he took a savoring sip of his pre-ruin rye-neat. It had been a very long time since he had been back in this part of the world, but it seemed he had really changed. It seemed that little had really changed since the last time he was here, including the modern form of entertainment. He had intended to simply stop for a quick drink and before going to find a room and get cleaned up. However, by the look of things, he figured he may just end up getting a little exercise in before retiring as well. All that said, this was shaping up to be just another day in the life of Jeremiah Wollstrand, the survivor extraordinaire. "I don't believe it," whispered Michael Jones, a heavy-set, middle-aged gentleman of one of 2 bedraggled locals, sitting in the shadowy recesses of the southwest corners of Casey's Bar and Grill. Nudging his older brother, Kelvin, he questioned in a hushed voice, "I wonder what brings him back to town." Looking up from his meager meal of cornbread and shredded pork shoulder roast, smothered in a light mushroom sauce with a subtle hint of tarragon, Kelvin, sporting a weather-beaten patch over his left eye, stifled a gasp. "It's him." Observing Jeremiah for just a moment, Kelvin remarked, "He's definitely looking for someone or something." The sudden gasp and commentary that followed caught the focused attention of a nearby table, thus sending the message racing through the entire establishment, like an old prairie bushfire. Biting into his cornbread and wild mushroom pieces, another patron wearing a long tan overcoat, seated at an adjacent table, commented, "I thought Carlos said he had capped him almost 2 years ago." "He did. Lost a dozen men in the process, he claimed," replied the heavy-set local from the corner table. What are the odds he's looking for Carlos or his companions?" inquired the one-eyed companion. "Pretty good, I'd say. Word's going to get out in a hurry, that's for certain, responded the heavyset local, taking a pull from his pint of post-ruin house ale. As they bantered back and forth, the two men collected the balance of their meal and drinks, vacating the table without hesitation or request. Your table is ready, Mr. Wallstrand, just like before, offered the heavyset patron that had spotted Jeremiah in the first place, indicating the table they were just clearing. Glad you're back. Thanks, responded Jeremiah, calmly taking a seat as the others removed the rest of their belongings. It had taken Jeremiah some time early in his career to become accustomed to this kind of reaction. However, it had become standard over the years, and he had learned to accept it. Dressed in matching handmade leathers beneath an old factory-made real leather duster, he placed his Thompson M1A1 on the table in front of him and set his time-worn backpack just under the left-hand edge of his seat. With the katana peeking silently over his right shoulder and his back against the wall, he settled in. Casually relaxing, he crossed his black, leather-toed boots in front of him. This was in striking contrast to the rest of the patrons. At 5'8", with weathered features and medium frame, he sat in silence, sipping his pre-ruined rye neat, his steely dark gray eyes intensely scanning the area for any sign of trouble and or interest. His dark, weather-worn, white-brimmed hat was pulled slightly down in front of him, partially concealing his face. Never mind the direction his eyes were looking. Seldom, if ever, did he miss anything of real import going on around him. Taking a moment to reflect his surroundings, Jeremiah pulled out his personal hand-bound leather journal and began writing. 032112, March 21st, EA 12. It is nice getting back to Casey's. It really has grown. Yet, it's still as I remember it. To be honest, it often amazes me how Casey can make almost everyone feel welcome, no matter how different they are. It is quite inspiring and bears a great message of hope to the world that things can return to the way they were, and thus the denizens of this planet can return to paradise. Note to self, I will do what I can to ensure Casey gets the opportunity to continue making this a better world for all. Sensing something, or more to the point, someone, approaching him from the crowd, Jeremiah readied himself to deal with whatever was to transpire. However, truth be told, he was not concerned about this scarcely remembered sensation, but instead was rather curiously fascinated. Barely disturbing the crowd, whilst passing virtually unseen, a shadowy figure approached Jeremiah's table in a clearly non-aggressive fashion. As he approached, reflected in the flickering candlelight, the golden hue of his skin danced in and out of darkness, like ice crystals glinting in full moonlight. Upon first glance, Jeremiah knew the style of the cloak, though he had not seen that cut for what seemed like eons. However, even at this distance, he was certain he recognized the specific cloak, and thus was racking his memory for the identity of the individual wearing it. It struck Jeremiah almost too late. The memories came flooding back, all in one fluid motion, just as the individual arrived at the table without a sound. And that's where I'm going to bring this particular reading to a close. Okay, next week I will finish off chapter 1. But let's see. Holy mackerel. Wasn't paying attention to this at all. And that's why I said I'll go back over it. Okay. What have we got here? Charlene, how you doing? Glad you could join us. And Chad, how you doing? World, welcome aboard. Glad you could join us today. Lunar, how you doing? I hope your day has been going well. Yeah, that's how I often do it there, Lunar. I end up with, like, quite often 7 or 8 tabs up all at the same time. And Philip, how you holding up? Love you, love. Glad you showed up and are willing to share your time with us. And Jake, how are you? Talk about, I turned my head for a little bit of time, and all of a sudden I'm just all over the place here. Love you, love. Glad you could join us there. You take care, lovey love. And we are down to the bottom. So that is the first half of chapter 1. That ended on page 14. Chapter 1 itself, which I'll finish reading next week, is where does it end? Yeah, it's actually only got another 5 pages because it finishes on page 19. I just didn't know how long it was going to run. It's been, to say the least, a bit hectic for me. But hey, I managed to get a chance to get supper in before I came back here. Now, the nice part, I've got, one of the things I did with this particular book is I turned around and I've got a compendium that I'm going through and putting all of the characters in it and all of their first appearances. Now, the compendium itself will not be out until the last book gets done, because obviously it can't be. It's got to be completed. Okay. Now, that's the one book I'm working on that is tied directly to the Yldrbacian Chronicles. Okay, so we've got I'm just making a note to make sure I've got all, because maybe I should finish one thought at a time. What do you think? Yeah, so I've got to get I've got the companion. I've got that one little part that you heard. It's the first entry in literally book 10, okay, of Jeremiah's journal, which will be another addendum to the Yldrbacian Chronicles saga. So, I've got those two that I've got to deal with. I wonder if I've got them both here. Yeah, I said I had 36, and wouldn't you know it? What have we got here? The journal's there. The compendium is not listed. Well, ain't that trippy? I'll have to double check and make sure I get all those. Okay. But that's where that started. Now, I did find there is a program that I'm looking into that will be able to do this in automated form. Okay, so I'll be able to put out an audio version of the book sooner or later. Probably later than sooner. But we'll see how that goes. Okay, so that's where that's sitting. Now, each one of the characters Jeremiah himself, just to bring that into perspective, Jeremiah was built literally by me for an actual game system. At the time, we were playing a game called Aftermath. Okay, this was written, and the game was played back in the early 1980s. Now, the storyline was written way back when I was in grade 10. Okay, I'd have been about 15 years old at the time. So that would have been probably 1973. I wrote the original storyline. Nope, that's wrong. 1970 would have been 1978. 73, I'd only been 10 years old. In 1978 would have been when I wrote the actual storyline. But Jeremiah the way that all worked out was actually built in would have been built the summer of 1981. Now, there was another character that was mentioned there, a Jade Kobayashi. Now, Jade Kobayashi was another character that was built for a different gaming system by another gamer. But I liked the character so well, I took that as a template. Okay. I used that as a template to bring a sense of shall we say, intriguing continuity to it. Okay. So what do we got here? How's that going for you there, Lunar? Lunar's going, try not to life review and listen. I appreciate that. I know in my case, I keep life reviewing anyway. You know, you're more than welcome there, Charlene. Glad you could join us. I will be continuing this. I worked it out, and it'll be the middle of April when I finish what I've already laid out as far as the reading goes. Hopefully by then I'll be able to add the next storyline, which will be the Return to Paradise. Okay, because it looks like it's going to take about a month to a month and a half to go through the start of each of the books I'm looking at. I'll figure out what to do from there afterwards. You know, Eric, in all fairness, I agree with you. Eric's just commented. He goes, your mind multitasks so naturally you'd never be able to focus on just one at a time. I do once in a while. Usually if I have to focus on finances, on getting a spreadsheet to work right, that one takes a lot of focus. But other than that, pretty much not. Oh. I gotta go grab something. Not going very far, guys. It's gonna fall down instead. Be right back. Got to grab this. Yeah, come on. In answer to your question, which nobody actually asked, this is these are just a bunch of the figures I work with. But I'm looking for one in particular in here. Should be in this set because I picked the whole 9 yards up. Where is the little chap? Somewhere in this collection, I have a number of figures. And sure, I bring it back here, and now I don't have the one I was looking for. Yeah, not there either. Okay, well, so much for that neat little idea. I was going to show you, I've got figures I've got for most of these, but I guess that'll have to wait for next week, because I'm just not going to go out hunting around for it. You know, but with that in mind, next week when I come back on, I'll make sure that I have them. You know, I mean, this is not one of the characters that you got to worry about at this point, but he is one of the characters in the book that you have to worry about, or that the characters will require. You know, the neat part about it is if you grab the different figures, you know, then all of a sudden things start to make sense. It's a little easier to write, especially when I go to choreograph things. You know, but yeah, world, this is just one of the uses of the figures I've got. I just have no idea why the one I was going to show you is not actually here. So I will have to start that next week, because I'm not going that far. Oh, for me, Lunar, things go missing really quickly, and I've never quite figured out why. But what I've got at this point, just to give you an idea. Okay, this guy here, this is Jeremiah. Okay, and I've got the same artist. Okay, there's Jeremiah as well. Okay, on the front cover. Now I've got the same artist. He's over in England, doing all of my books, doing all of the books for the Yldrbacian Chronicles. I'm also going to be turning over to him once we get the next stage done. I've got some more artwork I desire him to really translate into a better form. Don't get me wrong. This is the kind of quality that my artist in England is doing. Okay. Now, in his form, that is absolutely necessary. Art for races. If you guys were in here earlier today, okay. This is the artwork the guy is doing the artwork for the races of the worlds is doing. Okay, so what I'll end up doing is getting John to take that and translate it into his version of the same picture, thereby having two different styles that I can work with. Okay, so all in all, now what do we got here? Thank you so much there, Lunar. I actually looked local. I've always told people I prefer dealing with local. Unfortunately, I spent a year and a half applying, taking my request to the local art school, a local art, high school, and to an art college, looking for an artist. Now, the administration in both places were absolutely bang on the money, but I never got one request or one offer regarding artwork from either of those two institutions. So I went looking elsewhere. Just so happened the guy doing my artwork came to me with the quality I was looking for and the attitude. Net result, I've already got those two done. Return to Paradise, the cover's already done for. The Where It All Began, which will be the fourth book out, and The Rise of Kieslak, who you'll get to find out about later. Okay, maybe. Well, you will, but I don't know whether it'll show up in the first part here. Probably not. Okay, but these are all books that the artwork is already complete for. Okay, even when it comes to this little neat package, when you look at the back of the book, you'll notice the border here. Okay, when we take that, this is the second book. Okay, you'll notice the border goes down across here. It's when you put them together that you see this part, and all 12 books line up to make one picture. Okay, so this is just one of those interesting little quirks that I've got there. Okay, so ultimately, when I talk about everything being connected, the people that you run into there. Okay. Oh, no, she wasn't there. I don't have a picture yet of Jade. This is one of those characters, one of many that I will be getting artwork done for. The artwork and the portraits done for. And we'll be adding to a repertoire of odds and ends, not the least of which is the pictures themselves I'll be looking into getting coffee cups, t-shirts, pictures, calendars, you name it. This is all stuff that's in the works. And yes, I've mentioned that I am going to be building a publishing company. All of these things I'm talking about are all essentially universal if they apply. Okay. And you'll get to see. Now here's the other thing. When I said I built, wrong book. When I said I built Jeremiah myself, okay, Jeremiah is literally, when I said I built him myself, and any gamer knows this, if you build a character you can relate to, what happens is a part of you goes into that character, which is why when you take a look at this guy's his favorite drink, which is pre-brew and rye neat, my favorite drink itself, my personal favorite, was always Crown Royal Rye. Okay. Now, to be honest, most of the time I mix it with ginger ale. Okay, but I do like it neat on occasion. This is why I said many of the questions that we talk about in other areas. Oh, yes, Eric, I should actually do that, shouldn't I? Thank you so much for the reminder there. We take this, okay, and if you put the two books together, this is what Eric was referring to. The books create an entire picture along the entire spine as well. Okay, and I've got all that whole thing designed. As a matter of fact, John, when I talked to him about the artwork in the first place, these books, okay, there we are. This book is 392 pages plus the appendices. Now, John asked that I keep all of the books between 400 and 425, like between 375 and 425, to make sure that the spines are all about the same thickness. Okay, so with that in mind, okay, that's how it's all going to come together. Now, if you go to my website, which I've listed up above, that'll give you a breakdown and that'll tell you what the story is or what the books cost. Now, some of the stuff on my website has a hot link. The email address listed above is what you use to get directly to me. It's also the same email I use to get into PayPal. Now, needless to say, PayPal runs global. Okay. The prices listed on the website are simply for Canada and the continental US. Okay, the rest of it we're going to have to look into on a case-by-case basis because it will depend on how much. But what I end up having to do in order to be able to do this at all is I've had to take the price of the book, and the price anywhere I go is that I sell it at $40 Canadian plus shipping. Okay. And the shipping, and yes, I know that makes the book expensive. This is one of the reasons it doesn't sell as much as I'd like it to. But if you're like, the reality is, if I don't have shipping to deal with, then this becomes just $40, which is apparently the going rate for a full-size novel. And for those of you that do read, most books are printed at somewhere between 10 and 12 point. Okay, but if you look at the paper, at the writing in here, okay, these books I've written at 13 point. Okay, to make them a little larger, a little easier to read. Okay, that was because in my experience, like I'm a gamer, and as I put it, these books are written by a gamer. That's me, for gamers. That's some of you. There is in the Birth of the Wolf Pack, there is a group of gamers that's introduced later into the book that are actually trying to hold down a game in the middle of a world that's gone to heck in a handbasket. You know, yeah, me. World Bigfoot goes, yeah, me. And World is. He's a wonderful chap. Great show, and his kid is already doing some phenomenal work. Hence the website called we'll try English, shall we? Shadow and Son. Well, my apologies. World is a gamer. Shadow's not here. I screwed that up really badly, World. But I will tell you, where it comes to World, where it comes to World in his site, he's got some remarkable stuff regarding Bigfoot and what goes on. What goes on in that world. And again, absolutely drop in on his website. If you like what he's got to show you, do give him a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Well, there's a news flash for me, World. I honestly didn't realize that. Mind you, why doesn't that surprise me? Yeah, since if you started in the mid-70s, I started June of 76. Now, for me, it boiled down. Oh, not a problem there at all, Lunar. For me, when I started gaming, I did not know how to socialize at all. Okay, I just didn't. So I got in, my older brother introduced me to gaming at Christmas of 75. And in June of 76, when school let out, I started gaming. Since then, I've been playing role-playing games, on average of about twice a week. And I'm still, to this day, playing twice a week. Okay. Now, the neat part about it, from my end, is it was through gaming. And I know, especially in your case, World, I know you'll get a kick out of this. And anybody else that happens to be an actual gamer. I learned my social skills to start with by playing Dungeons and Dragons and various other games, where I learned rules were supposed to be noted. If you didn't like somebody, you were supposed to steal from them. And do understand, gaming is a world where you do not affect the physical people around you. So when I talk about you learn, if you didn't like somebody, you stole from them, I'm not talking in the real world. In the real world, if it doesn't belong to you, keep your hands to yourself. Gaming is a whole different ball game. Okay, so I turned around and learned the basic rules in gaming social skills. You didn't like somebody, kill them, steal from them, frame them for murder, or just ultimately make their life miserable. Then I got into the physical world. And that's a whole different story, which we'll go to some other, at a later time. For the moment, this is the way that the Yldrbacian Chronicles is evolving. Now, the first 8 books were already designed in grade 10. It wasn't until my gaming in the early 80s when I got together with a group of people, and I'll go into more of that as we run into characters. Okay, but each one of the primary characters in what you'll come to understand as the Wolf Pack are designed by different individuals. Okay, by different actual gamers. And it was the fun I had gaming coupled with the support that I had from the gamers in the real world that prompted me getting the Birth of the Wolf Pack written in the first place. And then after I got it written, or more to the point, as I was finalizing it, my girlfriend at the time pointed out that this whole story fit beautifully on the back end of the original story, because the Birth of the Wolf Pack takes place after the Great Collapse. But in the Birth of the Wolf Pack, you can either go back a couple of weeks here where I read it, or with the Birth of the Wolf Pack itself and the rest of the stories, you'll find that in the back of it, you'll find the actual original story written. Oh, yeah, and that's just, I spent years as a game master. At this point, I've hung up my Game Master to my Game Master smock. Okay. And the reason for that is because too many other complications. But I've got a gentleman that I game with that is really, I've got Game Master that really does a bang up job game mastering, so we let him do it. Works out kind of conveniently. Yeah, Eric's just saying he started D&D back in the 70s as well. Yeah, see, compared to Eric, I'm actually a young sprog. He beat me onto the floor. Not literally, but he beat me onto the floor just a little bit before me. But yeah, I mean, the first game I ever played was Space Opera. And I just loved one of the weapons they had. They had a weapon that was called the Coagulator. And as you can well imagine, that weapon it does literally what it says. But you will find, as the Yldrbacian Chronicles continue, what you'll find is some of the advanced technology comes into play. Okay. And we will get to some of that over the course of the next month. But I do have I do have the Birth of the Wolf Pack in stock. Pretty much an obvious issue. I'm hanging on to it here. And the sequel, which is right here. Okay. Now I'm still looking for ways to bring the cost of shipping down because my last attempt didn't work as well as I would have liked. Hey Saint, how are you? Glad you could join us. Hope your night has been going well. Yeah, I end up, when I get done here, Lunar, what happens next is I will go into my computer. I'll start actually writing more. Where is it? Went down to the restaurant yesterday. This little book here. Because sometimes I'll write in my green binder. But in this case, I went down to the restaurant that I live at and wrote out, this is part of why this is going actually into book 12. Okay, into the book that I'm currently writing. And I went down, and this is just normal for me. Yes, it's old school. Loose leaf paper, pen. Works out kind of conveniently. And this will all be translated will be all transcribed into the computer tonight. And then I carry on with the day. Yeah, Learning goes, Toy Hobby Stars had D&D. My parents opened the box ouch. WTF is this? Now, yes, I could have said something about that, but I don't. See, I told you were older and told you I was older and that you were older than me there, Eric. Yeah, I found out my brother passed away. Well, I found out he passed away a year ago. But apparently he has some 55 liquor boxes full of D&D figures and Dragon magazines. Okay. And knowing my brother, they're in pretty much mint condition. So we'll take a look at that stuff when we go down. Ouch. That's just a terrible shame there, Lunar. You do realize, and I mean, this is very serious, and this is literally the catch to it. Told you I come by the stock in the what do you call it? Pack rat. There you go. I come by the idea of pack ratitis quite conveniently there, world. I haven't seen the magazines yet. They're down with my brother right now. But no, something for you, world. Or not world, sorry. Something for you there, learner. Okay, it doesn't matter how old you are. Okay. To give you an idea, the gaming crew that you'll find at the end of the birth of the Wolf Pack, they range from 15 years old to 82. Okay. Many of the people I was gaming with in the early 80s were over 60 years old. The fact of the matter is, it's a great way to get together with friends. Great way to let your imagination run rampant. And you get to do all sorts of things you don't actually end up in jail for. Hint, hint. Personally, a lot of the people I was gaming with actually had run-ins with the law. Myself, I never even came down with a speeding ticket. Thank you very much. Keep it that way. Saints just gone anything with the purple alien. And I know I was looking at something the other day. Still have to put the information together. I don't think I've started adding it, but I will tell you this. They are the name of them. The name of the purple aliens, the race, are Rajoran. Okay, and that's Rajoran, not Bajoran. Not even related in the same concept. Okay, but now if I recall correctly there, Saint, you were looking for because I found two different races in my collection. One is a tall purple, like definitively purple race. Okay, they're a tall race. There's another group that I've run into that were a real short race. Now the Rajoran are the extremely tall ones. Extremely being 6 foot. Some of them get to 7. Basically, they're human sized. But it was the tall ones you were looking for, was it not? Yeah, almost. If you, and they didn't look like them, but I'm thinking, if you remember, there was a commercial back in the 80s about the grapes. The purple grapes. It was about that color of purple. Yeah, definitely not a mind flayer in their world. Besides that, mind flayers are just a royal pain in the neck. But yeah, Eric, I used to have the lead figures as well. Somewhere around here, I've still got at least one of them, but I think most went the way of the dodo bird. Thanks, Saint. Yes, that color, the California raisins. Very silly commercial, but it did get people's attention. Oh, and here we have this. Well, cannot do that way. Have to do it this way. And yes, these guys are in volume 2. I did so there, Chad. That is just sad there, Lunar. That really is. Comical, but sad. Yeah, Chad, I actually did. I used to have the pewter ones as well. I used to have a lot of them. Put out by Ralparthan Citadel were real big ones. Yeah. World goes, Mind Flayers, Beholders, and Aboleths. The 3 giants, jerks of D&D boss monsters. Yeah, no doubt. Oh, nice there, Chad. Your mom collected them. I've actually got, where is it? There. For the Yldrbac Chronicles, and I'll tell you right now, way too pricey. Too pricey. Yeah, there's English for you. this box, okay, was custom made for the Yldrbacian Chronicles. Okay, I don't know if you can read that or not. Now, this is one of a very definitive collector's item. Okay, yes, there are 10 of them. Some of them went to people. The other ones that were supposed to go didn't. So I got a few left that are numbered, but I do have another set being built that are more generic as far as that goes. Hate trying to sneeze and not getting to. But these boxes contain a complete set of dice. Okay, but they're handmade. You know, the boxes themselves are handmade, hence the price. But assuming that the Yldrbacian Chronicles takes off the way I'd like it to, these become an interesting connection. Okay, but I figured, what is a book built for gamers without a set of gaming dice? Okay, and as you can see, like I showed you there, this is the first off the list. I take the first one. It's just that simple. Okay, but I will warn you, they are, to say the least, a pricey little item. Okay, but if this takes off properly the way I'd like it to, we end up with a good setup. Where are we here? Yeah, Luna's just saying, yeah, I've got, do I got it here? No, down back. I have all kinds of dice set aside. Oh, well, the purple alien's main purpose, that's a mouthful and a half. They are simply an exploration group. They are looking, when I talk about them looking for places to colonize, they are not looking at conquering. They are looking for places, for new cities or new worlds that they can settle in on and intermix with the locals. This is an exploration based society. They are not combat oriented. They are combat capable because you either get combat capable or you don't head out into the real world. And what do we got? Wonder why they. That could be any number of reasons, but my suspicion is whoever they had, whichever person they had handling the social interaction, spotted something about you that fit with their outlook, at least as far as what their initial assessment was. Which means coming to get a hold of you would be to find out if their first assessment was right. Just looking at this here. Yeah. Now, I'm not quite certain what you're referring to there. Do understand, like, I'm just looking at what Luna wrote here. You know, she goes, I have a few pair of dice, not selling them on eBay. You know, and she goes, I'm good with it. And down below, just keep them hidden. Oh, okay, we're referring to your dice. Yeah, my personal dice I don't sell. I actually have one die with a witness. It became a one-sided die. Okay. I rolled it. It used to be a 20, but I used it for so long I wore all the edges off it. You know, all the corners. And I rolled the thing. It was running around in circles and I didn't want it to continue, so I put a lid over top of it. Like a tobacco can lid over top of it. 5 minutes later, I picked the lid up, and that silly dice was still going around in circles. You know, and yeah, there was a witness to it, which is kind of neat when you think about it. Okay, and Saint's just going, it was a female, looked late teens, early 20s in our age frame. Yeah. And again, now if she was a young female, that would make sense because they start their education specialization very early. Now, that said, guys, I'm going to bring this to a close. I've been here for just over an hour, and after 2 hours earlier. Absolutely. There are all kinds of ways of getting a hold of me. Okay. If you desire to connect with me, look below this video and any other ones, and you'll find a list of different ways to get in touch with me. Not the least of which is through the email up above at innervoiceenterprises@yahoo.ca. And I will do my best to respond. In the meantime, I'm going to call it a night, give my throat an actual break. Okay, but I will catch up with you guys tomorrow. And tomorrow, once again, what are we dealing with? Tomorrow at 4:30, we are dealing with what is actually on the dark side of the moon. Now, again, I cannot give proof of it. This is just from my own experience, and you get to figure out whether or not to believe it or not. Well, that was redundant. In any event, guys, thank you so much for joining me once again. Next Sunday, after the open show, I will complete chapter 1 for you. Okay. I'll debate. I might just decide I got to look at the length of chapter 2 at the same time. Because if it's short enough, that was only 5 pages, which I was not honestly expecting. I thought it was a couple of extra pages. So I go to book 1. We went to page 14. And chapter 2 runs to 20, so it's 5 pages. Think I'm going to adjust things here. Because chapter 2 runs 21 to 29, which is 8, 5. Yeah, I think I will. Next week, I will finish off chapter 1, and I'll read the chapter 2 in its entirety. Okay. I think that's the best way to do it from my standpoint. Or wait, tell you what, let you guys give me an idea. Okay. And that being said, would you rather, like, all that's left in chapter 1 is 5 pages. Okay. Or I can do 13, which covers all of chapter 2 at the same time. Eric, we are absolutely still on for Tuesday. Okay. I get finished at 6:30. So anytime after 6:30, we can absolutely go. Okay, I believe we were looking at 7 coming on your show at 7:00, I believe. 7:00 Pacific. That would make it 10:00 your time. Okay, but yeah, from my standpoint, we're absolutely still on Tuesday. I already told my other half Tuesday I'm booked. But with that in mind, guys, and I'll double check with you guys. We can figure out next Sunday whether we decide to do just the tail end of chapter 1 or the end of chapter 1 and the completion and the entirety of chapter 2 at the same time. But I'm going to call it a night. So thank you so much for joining me. Thank you once again for sharing your time with me. And I will see you again tomorrow. Okay. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.